Hey, welcome to the Idea Lab. In this video, we're going to be discussing belonging cues. Daniel Coyle has an excellent book on belonging cues where he talks about exactly what they are. And what he says is that belonging cues are little things that we do, little things that exist within our physical environment, little things that exist within our cultures that create a sense of belonging for us. Think about any place you've been to. Think about a place where you go that you just feel 100% comfortable, where you feel like you belong in this space. This is a space where you can be yourself and nobody's going to judge you for being yourself. I guarantee you there are things that exist within that space that are creating that sense of belonging for you. Now, today we're going to talk about 4 different ways in which we can send belonging cues to our students. We're going to look at eye contact, we're going to look at body language, we're going to look at attention, and we're going to look at sharing vulnerabilities. Within body language, only about 7% of our communication is verbal. 7% of what we say gets through. A majority of the communication that another person is going to receive from us is going to be in our body language. So when we're interacting with our students, we want to think about what is our body language? What's on our face? Are our eyebrows furrowed? Are they open? Are we smiling? Are we frowning? Do we have our arms crossed in a closed body language position, or are they nice and open where a person's going to feel more welcomed? A great way to practice good body language is to just greet your students at the door every day. At the beginning of class, try to put a smile on your face, be standing at that door with an open posture, and greet those students with a handshake or a fist bump or whatever welcome you and your students are going to be the most comfortable with. Eye contact is another essential key point of sending belonging cues. When we make eye contact with another person, we're sending the message, you can trust me. We're sending the message, I see you. There's something about making that eye contact that just makes a person feel seen. How many students, when they don't know the answer to a question, try to avoid making eye contact with the teacher? Because once that eye contact is made, it's almost as if we have to respond or we have to engage with you. So putting in that effort of really making eye contact with your students can do a great job of making sure they're seen. Now, the third thing is attention. Now, attention seems like a really obvious one. Of course, if you give a person attention, then they know you know who they are, they feel like they belong, and so on and so forth. But while it's an obvious thing to do, that doesn't necessarily mean it's easy. I remember when I was a student teacher, I had one student, her name was Haley. And for whatever reason, Haley was invisible to me. She was a great student, easy to get along with. I never had any behavior issues with her, but I couldn't see her. Every day I'd take attendance. I'd go through, I'd look, I'd mark down all the people that were there, and I'd mark Haley absent. And then when I would make the announcement, okay, looks like we're all here but Haley, she would raise her hand and say, Mr. Blaine, I'm right here. And it got so bad that the other students in class, and Haley, of course, as well, noticed that I'm not seeing Haley. And so when I'd go through and I'd take my attendance, if I didn't say it verbally, they would ask, hey, Mr. Blaine, is Haley here today? I'd do a scan of the classroom. I'd be like, nope, doesn't look like it. And then she would just raise her hand and say, Mr. Blaine, I'm right here in my regular seat, the same place I sit every single day. And so I don't know what it was, but I had a really hard time seeing her. For whatever reason, she was invisible to me. And what I learned from this is that we have to be deliberate in making sure we see every student. If you only have 3 or 4 students in a small group, it's not too hard to do. I mean, there's a handful. But when you're looking at a full class, it's really easy to overlook 1 or 2 students, especially if those students aren't doing anything in particular to get your attention. If they aren't creating any problems, if they aren't causing you trouble, then we tend to see the ones that cause trouble a little bit more often. And the truth is, when we give attention to the ones that cause trouble, we just encourage people to cause trouble. If that's what it's going to take to be seen, that's what I'm going to do. So if we can be deliberate in making sure we're seeing every single person, we're giving attention to every single student we serve, we can keep our behaviors down and we can create a greater sense of belonging within our classrooms. And then our final one is sharing vulnerability. Now, in sharing vulnerability, I'm not saying you need to stand in front of your class and tell them all your deepest, darkest secrets. That's not what we're looking for here. We don't even want the students to be sharing those deepest, darkest secrets. The idea here is to get comfortable with failure, is to be willing to say, I'm not perfect. And so we can practice that vulnerability. We can model it for our students by when we make a mistake, taking the time to acknowledge our mistake and to just talk through how we're going to learn from that mistake we made, what we've done differently, showing the students how to be vulnerable and how to work with that vulnerability. And even maybe if we need to really prompt it, have a little bit of a circle discussion where we ask people to just share one little small vulnerability. Nothing too deep, but maybe just a mistake you've made and how you've learned from it, or something that's going to be a little bit outside a person's comfort zone, but still safe enough that we're not asking people to really make this deep dive. And the idea here is that if we can get that vulnerability going, we've really created a sense of belonging within our culture. When students feel safe to fail, safe to make mistakes, where they can stand up, talk through a question that they may not know the answer to, then we've gotten to a place where learning can really occur. So we want to make sure that as we're going through our classrooms, as we're trying to create this sense of belonging, that we're practicing these four things. We want to make eye contact with our students. We want to convey positive body language through open postures, smiles on our faces, eye contacts, all of these things. We want to make sure we're being deliberate and paying attention to our students. And we want to encourage a little bit of safe vulnerability where students get comfortable making mistakes in front of one another and failure becomes normalized. There's nothing wrong with getting the question wrong. That just means I have more to learn. Continue to tune in to the Idea Lab for more ideas on how we can do good things in our classrooms.